Buenos dias, good morning and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at emergency situations that could occur when you're driving in Spain, or you may be asked a question, or some of this vocabulary could possibly appear in your exam. So let's have a look at that now. So here's the list of today's lesson, and it's just things that we might need if once we've passed our Spanish driving exam, if we're in an emergency. And also some of these things could be used in the exam, not for an emergency, but just for general conversation. So we have ¿estás bien? Are you okay? Tranquilo or tranquila. So tranquilo would be the masculine and tranquila would be feminine, which just means don't worry, be calm. So if you're a male, they might say to you in the exam, tranquilo, or if you're female, they would say tranquila. And it's just a way of kind of calming you down before the exam starts. Or if you happen to come across somebody that's had a crash and they're a little bit worked up, you could say tranquilo or tranquila to that person. You could even mix the two together. ¿Estás bien? Tranquilo or tranquilo. ¿Estás bien? Or tranquila. Then everybody stay calm, tranquilos. So the plural would be with the S. And when we're using plural, we would always use the masculine. So if there's a mixture of people, men and women, we would say tranquilos. Tranquilos todos. Everybody stay calm. Tranquilos todos. I'm going to look for help. We would say voy a buscar ayuda. Voy a buscar ayuda. So remember that the V is like a B sound. So we would say voy a, and this is the same thing as when we say I'm going to a place, which we've also got in the lessons, the places that we need to know to get to places. Voy a buscar ayuda, I'm going to look for help, or we've seen voy a la farmacia, or voy al ayuntamiento, I'm going to the pharmacy, I'm going to the town hall. Voy a is something that's used a lot when we're driving places. Buscar is to search or to look for. So I'm going to, or I'm looking for help. I'm going to look for help. Voy a buscar ayuda. Duele? Duele is, does it hurt? So when we're building sentences in Spanish, we don't necessarily need as many words as in English. When we say, does it? We would just use the action, the verb, which is hurt, and we would put question marks around it. So if we're stating something hurts, we would say duele. And if we're asking if something hurts, we would say duele. So when we're asking a question in Spanish, our voices kind of lift a little bit towards the end of the sentence. ¿Estás bien? ¿Duele? Or duele mucho? Does it hurt a lot? ¿Duele? ¿Duele mucho? Don't move. No se mueva. No se mueva. I'm going to call. Voy a llamar. Voy a llamar. So this is something that we might possibly see during or after the exam. I'm going to call wherever. They might say to you, I'm going to call the driving school tomorrow with your result. They don't always give you your result there and then. Sometimes you'll get your result through the driving school the next day. So they could say something like, voy a llamar a la autoescuela. I'm going to call the driving school tomorrow. Voy a llamar a la autoescuela mañana. So that's one that you could take a note of. Voy a llamar a la autoescuela mañana. Or for emergency situations, which is what we're looking at now, voy a llamar a. I'm going to call, in Spanish it's call to, even though we don't need to use that word in English, they would use the a in Spanish, which translates to a to here. Voy a llamar a una ambulancia. Voy a llamar a la policía. O voy a llamar al 112. Voy a llamar al 112. So the a is a translation in this case, meaning to. In Spanish, they call to. In English, we just call the police, call an ambulance. In Spanish, they call to the ambulance. So that's where the extra word is coming from. So it would be a la if the place is a feminine place, or una if it's one. And if it would be a masculine place, el, we don't say in Spanish a él because it's very difficult. A él, we would say al. Voy a llamar al. Just so you can understand where the al is coming from at the bottom. So you can see here, voy a llamar a la policía, or because it's el 112, masculine, uno with the O ending, it's al. Voy a llamar al 112. These are the type of things that we would really focus on in the beginner Spanish course. And I don't want to spend too much time on Spanish grammar in this course because obviously our objective is purely to get driving in Spain, to get a Spanish driving license. But sometimes it's also important to know where things come from if we're having to memorize them. So, voy a llamar a una ambulancia, voy a llamar a la policía, voy a llamar al 112. Is there a doctor nearby? ¿Hay un médico cerca? So this is one it's going to be used absolutely everywhere. Whether it's driving in Spain, just using the Spanish language, it's used a lot in so many places, and it's pronounced a. Remember, we've got the silent H if we go back to our first lesson, and the Y is the same pronunciation as the I. So it's like saying a. A lot of my students find this one a little bit tricky. ¿Hay un médico cerca? Is there a doctor nearby? So we've seen cerca in previous lessons. Just to go back on that a moment, I do like to repeat things just to make sure. It's easy to forget little words like this. Cerca would be near, and lejos is far. Cerca, lejos. Cerca, lejos. ¿Hay un médico cerca? Is there a doctor near? ¿Hay un teléfono cerca? Teléfono, we've got the accent on the E, so we can kind of hear the word, the tone in our voice climbing up in the middle. Teléfono, teléfono. Or here even médico, where the front of the word has got the strength on it. Médico. These are just little tips where we can kind of take advantage of this lesson to improve our pronunciation as well, which obviously helps our communication during the driving exam. And it also helps us understand words, because if in our head it sounds a little bit different and then it's said to us using the accent, we might not always get that if we're not too sure about the accents. ¿Tiene móvil? Tiene, or it could be tienes. Tiene would be the more polite option. Tienes would be the more general, common. Do you have a mobile? ¿Tienes móvil? ¿Hablas inglés? Do you speak English? There's a car accident. Again, we've got a. Hay un accidente de tráfico. Hay un accidente de tráfico. Remembering that the C followed by an I is a th sound, accidente. So we've got the two C's here. We've got the K, the normal C, and then the C followed by the I, accidente. Es urgente. Es urgente. It's urgent. Necesito ayuda. I need help. Necesito una ambulancia. I need an ambulance. Necesito a la policía. I need the police. Hay una persona en mal estado. there's a person in a bad way, in bad shape. Socorro. Socorro is like a really strong cry for help if there's an extreme emergency. A little softer would be ayuda, help. Ayúdame would be help me. And then the last one, not very nice, but an important one to know, because it does happen a lot, especially in the summer in different parts of Spain where they have a lot of tourists. We get windows broken and things going on with cars a lot of the time. I've been robbed. Me han robado. Me han, remembering again the silent H. Me han robado. Also, as well, if somebody were to approach you asking for help, they might say, me han robado. Okay, so I'm going to go through the list one more time, and we would then conclude this lesson of emergency situations. ¿Estás bien? Tranquilo, tranquila. Tranquilos todos. Voy a buscar ayuda. ¿Duele? ¿Duele mucho? No se mueva. Voy a llamar. Voy a llamar a una ambulancia. Voy a llamar a la policía. Voy a llamar al 112. Voy a llamar... No, there's no more voy a llamar. ¿Hay un médico cerca? Is there a doctor nearby? ¿Hay un médico cerca? ¿Hay un teléfono cerca? ¿Hay un teléfono cerca? Or you could use, is there a mobile near? We could say, ¿hay un móvil cerca? O, ¿tienes móvil? ¿Hablas inglés? ¿Hablas inglés? Hay un accidente de tráfico. Imagine that on the morning of your exam, there's a hold up and you're like, what's going on? And you might use the Spanish expression, ¿qué pasa? What's going on? ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa? What's up? What's going on? ¿Qué pasa? And then your teacher, your driving instructor, or the examiner says to you, hay un accidente de tráfico. Then at least you know what the holdup is. Hay un accidente de tráfico. Es urgente. Necesito ayuda. Necesito una ambulancia. Necesito a la policía. Hay una persona en mal estado. Socorro. Remembering the rolling of the R. Socorro. Ayúdame. Me han robado. Me han robado. Muy bien, muchas gracias. I'm thinking let's have one little practice where I'm going to have my own emergency situation in Spanish. I'm going to say it and hopefully you understand it and you would be able to translate it. So let's see. Necesito ayuda. Voy a llamar a una ambulancia. Duele mucho. Hay un accidente de tráfico. So let's hope that using the list, you would be able to understand what I'm saying there. So that's something you could try and maybe write down and go back through the list and check if you've got that. Okay, so that's all with the emergency situations. So I will see you in the next video recording. Muchas gracias. Best of luck with your exam. Mucha suerte. And see you for the next few video recordings, which are going to be pure exam practice of the day in the car. Muchas gracias. Adiós. Hasta luego.